There were peaceful protests around this world against him because he is a problem. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress when she knew good and well, if she watched the entire thing, that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. The fact that there are other sitting members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution and they are not about following the law.
This one's personal. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett just went off. And honestly, who can blame her? The Texas Democrat unleashed one of the most fiery takedowns we've seen in Congress this year, and it was aimed straight at Attorney General Pam Bondi. Why? Because Bondi went on Fox News, or as Crockett called it, faux news, and threatened her. That's right, the sitting Attorney General, using her platform to intimidate a sitting member of Congress. And Crockett wasn't having any of it.
Thank the chairman. I now recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, Jasmine Crockett.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I first just want to begin with a news alert. Guess what? Joe Biden is not the president anymore. So maybe we can move on. Maybe we can move into the present because it seems like we are living in the past. And listen, these are not the good old days, you know, like you used to sit around and your grandparents would talk to you about what used to happen. What we need to be talking about is how we are going to legislate, because I think that some of my colleagues have confused what our jobs are. And I get that we're sitting in judiciary. And so it may seem as if we are here to be litigators, but we are here to be legislators, which means that we are supposed to be writing laws, not trying to have our own trials and determine whether or not something is true or not, or whatever the case is, or who should be sued, who shouldn't be sued. All I know is that a great American hero, a good senator out of New Jersey, said something to the effect yesterday as he was shattering the record for holding the floor, a record that had been held by another racist in this country. As he shattered that, he said something about the fact that this should not be about left versus right. It should be about right versus wrong. And I am going to tell you that I want us to focus on right versus wrong. The reason that we are struggling right now in this country as it relates to people not trusting agencies, honestly, a lot of it is because of elected leaders. Let me tell you, one of the things that the chairman and I actually agree upon, we don't agree on a lot, is that we both know that there has been a sharp incline as it relates to threats upon our lives. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, we both know and agree that as sitting members of Congress, we both are enduring more death threats than anybody should in this country. And I believe that it is because of the divisive rhetoric, and it is because of the selective enforcement of things. And so when we have, and I'm gonna be clear, because I had remarks and I'm going a whole other way. To have the sitting Attorney General go on, and I'm gonna call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me, it was wrong. Because here it is, she is the highest law enforcement agent in this country, and people are watching and they are consuming this information and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm gonna say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law. For whatever reason, just because he has a lot of money, more money than everybody else. And yes, I am happy to see that on my birthday, which is what I said, there were peaceful protests around this world against him because he is a problem. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress when she knew good and well, if she watched the entire thing, that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. The fact that there are other sitting members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution and they are not about following the law. The reason that our party, or I won't even say our party, our country is torn apart is because we can't even agree on right versus wrong. This should not be left versus right. The only thing that we're asking is that we have law enforcement that will show up when there is an actual crime. If somebody calls and says, hey, I need you to investigate this cyber crime, or I need you to investigate this child pornography, or I need you to investigate this robbery, then we want somebody to show up, and we don't want them to look at us and act as if just because I'm black or because I'm woman that I am not worthy of having that case investigated, because we have an administration that is continuously railing against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or we don't need people that show up that feel like diversity should not be valued. That is why we should have somebody that may show up and looks like me. The final thing that I'll say, because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm going to walk in with a level of rapport and understanding that maybe some of my other colleagues will not. Charlie offered me my job. And I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me. And that is what it looks like to serve. Thank you.
All right, let's get into this, because this moment from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett wasn't just fiery, it was a masterclass in standing up to abuse of power. So here's the setup. During a Judiciary Committee hearing, Jasmine Crockett, the sharp-tongued, fearless Democrat from Texas, decided she'd had enough of Attorney General Pam Bondi's political games. Bondi, who's been walking a fine line between attorney general and right-wing propagandist, went on Fox News, or as Crockett perfectly put it, faux news, and used that platform to send what Crockett called a threat directly at her. Let that sink in. The highest law enforcement officer in the country, instead of protecting citizens, instead of defending justice, used her platform to go after an elected lawmaker who dared to criticize her. That's not law and order. That's intimidation. And Crockett, she didn't blink. She didn't back down. She stood tall in that hearing and let Bondi and the entire GOP know that she's not here to play defense. She's here to speak truth to power. Crockett opened with a line that had the whole room frozen. Guess what? Joe Biden is not the president anymore. Maybe we can move on. Boom. Instantly cutting through the noise of Republican obsession with the past. Because what do these GOP hearings always turn into? Endless reruns of conspiracy theories, culture wars, and performative outrage. All about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton. Literally anything except governing. Crockett reminded them what their actual job is. We are legislators, not litigators. That's the whole point. Congress is supposed to write laws, not act as a Fox News studio for partisan theater. But where things really got heavy was when she spoke about the real danger, the toxic rhetoric that's putting lives on the line. She pointed out that both Democrats and Republicans in Congress are receiving death threats like never before, and those threats are being fueled by extremist lies, online hate, and media figures like the ones Bondi cozies up to. And then came the gut punch. Crockett called out Bondi for setting a dangerous precedent, using her role as Attorney General to politicize justice and send a public threat to a sitting member of Congress simply for exercising free speech. People are watching, they're consuming this information, and they are believing it, Crockett said. That's not just true, it's chilling. When those in power weaponize their platforms against critics, it sends a signal to the public. It's open season on anyone who speaks out. Crockett wasn't just defending herself. She was defending the principle that government officials should serve the law, not their political egos. And she made it clear she's not scared of Bondi, Elon Musk, or any billionaire who thinks money puts them above the Constitution. She called Musk a crook who uses his wealth to manipulate government contracts and avoid accountability. And you could feel the frustration of millions of Americans who see the same double standard every single day. Then came one of the most powerful lines she's ever delivered. This should not be left versus right. It should be right versus wrong. And she's absolutely right, because what we're seeing isn't just partisanship, it's a moral divide. One side is trying to govern, to protect democracy, to hold powerful people accountable. The other side is using fear, threats, and misinformation to keep control. Crockett's final words hit home, reminding everyone what real public service looks like. She shared how when she started as a public defender, she told her boss to hire her because she was Black, because she could connect with clients who'd been ignored, judged, or silenced by the system. And she delivered. That's representation. That's empathy. That's what leadership looks like. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi is out here turning the Justice Department into a political circus, threatening lawmakers and hiding behind partisan excuses. So here's the takeaway. Jasmine Crockett just reminded America that courage doesn't come from titles or networks or power. It comes from standing your ground when the system tries to silence you. And if this is how Bondi and her allies think they can intimidate progressives like Crockett, they just learned the hard way that they picked the wrong fight. Because Crockett doesn't just talk back, she fights back. If you stand with Jasmine Crockett and believe in leaders who fight for truth, justice, and accountability, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment below. Let's keep this conversation alive, because democracy only survives when we do.